Most agents are ruining open house conversations before the buyer even makes it to the kitchen. And I don't say that to be dramatic. I say that because I have watched it happen over and over and over again. Someone walks into an open house. They're curious. They're exploring. They're trying to get a feel for the neighborhood and trying to figure out if this could work for them. And within 45 seconds, the agent turns into a human intake form. Are you working with an agent? Are you pre-approved? What's your timeline? What's your budget? Do you need to sell before you buy? And those are all important questions eventually. But when you ask them too early in the wrong order with the wrong energy, it doesn't feel like service. It feels like an interrogation with snacks, and usually not even good snacks. If you're an agent who hosts open houses, who's tired of people walking through giving you fake names, fake emails, and the emotional warmth of a DMV employee on a lunch break, or you just want more real conversations, this video is for you. My name is Matt Thornburg. I run a real estate team here in San Diego, and I created L.O.R.E, the language of real estate, to help agents communicate better, handle conversations with more confidence, and stop sounding like every other agent with a clipboard and a dream. If you enjoy this content, give it a like, subscribe, and join our community. And if you're an agent who wants to talk about joining the Wolfpack, partnering at EXP, or building a better communication system in your business, you can go to that first link in the description and book a call with me at a time that works for you. Now, let's talk about open houses, because open houses are really one of the strangest environments in real estate. Think about it. You're standing in someone else's house, trying to be helpful, trying not to hover, trying not to seem desperate, while strangers walk in and immediately pretend that they are very interested in baseboards. And that visitor is in a weird place too. They might be a serious buyer. They might be 6 months out. They might be a nosy neighbor, and they may just be killing time before brunch. They may be trying to figure out if they can even afford the life that they actually want. They may not even know what they're doing yet. And that's the key. A lot of open house visitors are not ready to be qualified because they are still trying to understand themselves. But most agents are trying to qualify too fast. So the agent's brain goes lead, potential buyer, must capture, categorize, convert. And then the questions come out like a pop quiz. Are you currently renting or do you own? Do you have a lender? What price point are you in? Are you looking in this neighborhood? Are you working with an agent? Again, these are not bad questions. The problem is not the information. The problem is the timing and the energy. The problem is also that the agent is trying to get to the transaction before they've even earned it in the conversation. And that's where people shut down, because people don't hate open house conversations. They hate feeling interrogated. There's a huge difference between curiosity and qualification. Curiosity feels like this person is interested. Qualification feels like this person needs a sale and is deciding whether I'm worth their time. And people can feel that difference pretty quickly. This is why so many agents leave an open house saying nobody was serious. Maybe, or maybe nobody felt safe enough to tell you the truth. And that might sound a little harsh, but I say it with love, and the kind of love that says, hey, you got spinach in your teeth before you walk out the door to a listing appointment. Because if people are giving you surface answers, vague responses, or fake info, the issue may not be the lead quality. It may be the conversation quality. And this is where L.O.R.E comes in. The goal of the first conversation is not to get all the information. The goal is curiosity and to create enough safety that they actually want to keep talking to you. That's it. An open house conversation should feel less like, please complete this verbal application, and more like, hey, what brought you out today? That one shift really matters, because what brought you out today isn't a trap. It's not loaded. It doesn't make them defend themselves. It lets them start wherever they are. They might say, oh, we just live nearby. Great. That tells you something. They might say, we've been casually looking for a while. Also great. That also tells you something. They might say, we're not really serious yet. Your job is not to pounce on the first answer. Your job is to follow the thread. That's one of the biggest mistakes agents make. They hear one answer and they immediately jump to the next question on their mental checklist. Visitors say, we live nearby, and an agent says, are you working with an agent? That is a hard left turn. That's like being on a first date and asking about tax filing status before the appetizers even show up. Yeah, it could be relevant later. It's wildly early now. Instead, if they say, we live nearby, try saying, oh, nice, we're nearby. Then they answer, and you say, how long you been there? Then they answer, and you say, what do you like about it? Now something important happens. You've moved from transaction to real life. And real life is where motivation lives, because the real opportunity at an open house is almost never found in that first answer. That first answer is usually protective. Surface level. We're just looking. We live nearby. We're not ready yet. Agents hear that and think, that's not a lead. But lore agents hear that and think, that's the surface. Let's stay curious, because just looking can mean a lot of things. It can mean we're bored and we just like houses. It could also mean we hate our current place, but we're afraid to admit that we might actually need to move. It could mean we're testing the market. It could also mean we don't know if we can afford what we actually want. But you'll never know if your questions make them feel judged. So instead of responding to we're just looking with, okay, are you pre-approved? Try totally makes sense. What does looking look like for you right now? That question is gold because it lets them define their own stage. They may say, well, we're thinking about moving, but we're probably like 6 months out. Now you have a timeline thread to pull on. They may say, we're trying to figure out which neighborhood makes sense. Now you have a lifestyle thread. They may say, we're outgrowing our condo. Now you have a motivation thread. Same conversation, totally different energy. The better question did not avoid qualification. It earned it. And that's the point. You're not avoiding business conversations. You're sequencing them correctly. Open house conversations should move in this order: connection, context, motivation, timeline, next step. Most agents reverse that. They go, next step, awkward silence. Here's a mini water bottle. And then they wonder why people leave. So here's a simple framework that you can use, not a script to memorize, a conversation path. Start with, what brought you out today? Then, do you own a home in the neighborhood already? That gives you multiple pieces of information. They'll tell you where they live and if they own or rent. Then, nice. How long you been there? Then, what do you like about it? This is an underrated question. Most agents want to know what people hate about their living situation, but asking what they like does a few different things. First, it puts them in a positive emotional state. Secondly, it tells you what they value. Third, it makes the conversation feel human instead of predatory. If they say, we love being walkable to restaurants, that matters. If they say, we like the neighborhood, but the house is getting a little tight, that little but is a door opening. Not for you to charge through like the Kool-Aid man, just gently walk through it. You might say, yeah, that makes sense. What's starting to feel tight? Now you're into real life. Maybe they both work from home. Maybe they have a second kid on the way. Maybe they have 2 dogs, 3 bikes, a Peloton, and a garage that has become a museum of poor storage decisions. This is where the conversation actually becomes useful. Then you can ask, if you were to make a move, what would be next? Notice the wording, not when are you buying, when are you moving, not are you looking to purchase in the next 90 days, not are you ready to sit down with me and sign several documents while I maintain aggressive eye contact, just what would be next for you? That question opens the future without pressure. Then they answer, and you ask, what is it about that would be better than where you are now? That question gets into the motivation, because if somebody says, we'd probably want a bigger place, the motivation is not bigger place. That's a surface level answer. The real motivation might be, we want space to start a family. We want to stop feeling cramped every day. We want our life to feel less chaotic. That is what you're listening for, not details about a house. Details about the human being who's going to live in that house. And once you understand that, the next step becomes a whole lot easier, because you're not asking for a meeting so that you can sell them something. You're offering a next step tied to what they already said that they wanted. For example, would it be helpful if we sat down over a cup of coffee and talked about what it would look like to get you into a bigger place where your life actually fits? That feels very different than, can I get you to sign into my CRM? Which, by the way, is not a sentence that anyone has ever been emotionally moved by. Nobody goes home and says, honey, I met an agent today. I think he can put us in a database. No. People respond to clarity. They respond to feeling understood. They respond to someone who can take the vague mess that's in their head and make it feel simple and clear. That's the job. So let's make this practical. Here are the questions that I actually use at open houses. Number 1. What brought you out today? Number 2, do you own a home in the neighborhood, or are you looking to own a home in the neighborhood? Number 3, how long have you been there? Number 4, what do you like about it? Number 5, if you were going to make a move, what would be next? Number 6, what is it about that would be better than where you're at now? And number 7, is that a one-day dream, or is there a timeline on this? And then, if it makes sense, would it be helpful if we talk through what that could actually look like? That's it. Simple. And the reason it works is because it not only feels like a normal conversation, it just is one. It's not a capture strategy. Now, a quick note. How you ask the questions matters just as much. It's not a checklist to run through. It's more like a GPS where detours are encouraged while on your way to your end destination. And please, for the love of God, do not corner someone next to the bathroom and run through all 6 questions like you're trying to unlock a government secret. This is not about getting through the list. It's about knowing where the conversation can go. If they're guarded, slow down. If they're talkative, follow the energy. If they give you something emotional, pause. If they tell you something important, don't trample it with your next brilliant question. Validate it. Repeat it back to them. That makes sense. I can see why that would matter. Yeah, I'd imagine that gets frustrating after a while. Those little moments matter. That's how you create alignment. Because people don't open up to you because your script is perfect. They're going to open up to you because your presence feels safe and comfortable. And that's what most agents miss. They think that better scripts create better conversations, and sometimes they're right. But more often, better listening creates better conversations. Your tone matters. Your pacing matters. Your face matters. If your mouth says, no pressure, but your eyes say, I need a buyer agreement by 2:30, people will believe your eyes. So stay calm. You're not trying to convert everyone who walks in. You're trying to create a real conversation with the right people. And ironically, when you stop trying to force conversion, you become a lot more convertible because you feel different. You feel safer. You feel like a guide instead of a salesperson. And that is especially important for the agent who is watching this thinking, okay, but I don't want to be pushy. Good. Don't be. Pushy is not the goal. Passive isn't the goal either. That's a trap that a lot of good agents fall into. They don't want to pressure people, so they avoid leading them. But leadership and pressure are not the same thing. Pressure says, do what I want. Leadership says, let me help you see this clearly. That is the difference. At an open house, your job is not to force someone into a next step. Your job is to understand where they are, where they want to be, what is unclear, and whether a next step would actually be helpful to them. If it would, offer it calmly and clearly with confidence. Something like, hey, based on what you shared, it sounds like the big question right now is whether making a move in the next 6 to 12 months is realistic or not. Would it be helpful if we sat down over a cup of coffee and talked about what it looks like? That way you don't spend the next few weeks guessing. That is not pressure. That is clarity. And clarity is valuable. So the next time you're hosting an open house, I want you to remember this. People do not hate open house conversations. They hate feeling interviewed. Stop trying to qualify people before they feel understood. Stop rushing to the transaction before you've earned the relationship. And stop asking questions like you're checking off boxes. Get curious. Look for the threads and follow them. Listen for what they value. Listen for what's changing. Listen for the gap between where they are and where they want to be, because that gap is where the real conversation lives. And when you learn how to have that conversation well, open houses stop feeling like awkward lead capture events, and they start becoming what they should have been all along. A fun room full of people giving you clues about their life, their timing, their goals, and their next move. You just have to slow down enough to hear it. DM or comment L.O.R.E, L-O.R.E, and I'll send you the Language of Real Estate Starter Kit. And if you want to practice this live, the Tuesday call link is in the description. It's free, and it's open to every agent, everywhere.